Hey guys, welcome to Megamaniacs. I hope you have had a great weekend and are ready for the interview tonight with Miss Dolly Degen, who not only worked at the warehouse for 7 years as the warehouse manager for World Harvest Church, and she'll kind of go into that. But she's obviously the mother of Chris Degen, who was the lead worship pastor at World Harvest Church and minister of music, and Shaden Degen, who was on last week for the interview. That is her granddaughter. So oh, hey, Beth, I see you there. Hey, Ria. Hey, everyone. So Dolly is here. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about and to show. And I hope that this interview is not only enlightening, but that it opens people's eyes, it opens people's ears, and it continues to help people be bold and courageous when speaking out against abusive ministries and abusive ministers that take advantage of people and exploit people and use and abuse them and then discard them when they can no longer control them or they think that they don't need them anymore. So I am getting ready to let Dolly in. So you guys will hear me refer to her affectionately as Dolls. That's kind of what I called her when we worked together. So I am going to welcome her now, and please do the same. Hey,
Good evening,
Dolls.
Robin. Hey, Robin,
How are
how are
you?
you? I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I know that for me, this has been an interview that's a long time coming. So I am so glad that you could come on and do this live.
I am glad I'm able to do this as well.
And
Absolutely.
there's lots of people in the I don't know if you can see the comments, but there's Beth who worked with you and said lots of love for Miss Dolly. And there's a lot of people that love the Degens all around, but Chris and Yolanda and Shaden and the kids were a little bit more visible than you were kind of behind the scenes in the warehouse.
Correct.
So yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
am a behind the scenes person. I'm not in front of the camera person. So uh, that's why. And for those of you that do not know, I'm the Deegan's mom, not their older sister. So now you know.
Yes. Well, why don't you start off? Because I sort of know the answer to this, but just so everyone is aware, because I'm sure there are some people that um, don't know the Degens, but may have been a little bit more brought up to speed after Shaden's interview last week. But how did you get involved with World Harvest Church, and what was your role at the warehouse?
Uh, I always go wherever the kids are because I have felt like part of my ministry was helping them because they always have to get to church early, helping with the grandkids, being there to support them. And so that's why I'm here. Uh, I started at the warehouse May the 1st of 2018. And I was the manager of the warehouse, and that's how I came to Ohio. I usually, wherever they go, I go uh, to help with the kids. The kids are getting older now, so I'll probably be releasing me before long. Don't have to move as much.
Yeah, but you'll still want to be near the family, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, yes, we're very
Yeah.
close, uh, very, very tight knit. Sorry. Uh, we are very close. I've always been very close to my kids. I love uh, all five of them.
Yeah. Well, yes, absolutely. So, just for like a brief explanation before we sort of dive into other questions and things for the interview, what is the warehouse for World Harvest Church and Valor Christian College? Do you do some work for the school too, I think, but what is the warehouse to World Harvest?
Uh, it houses all of the books, all of the CDs. We get all of the mail out there and then deliver it to the different departments at the church. Um, all of his books that he has had ghostwriters to write for him are at the warehouse. The CDs and the DVDs, the messages that he has had other people to write for him. Uh, he preaches them, you know, so they're at the warehouse. Um, we sent all of that stuff out. The books like the 40-day fasting and prayer guide, right off the top of my head, is one that it has a different cover, but the inside of it's pretty much the same every year. Uh, CDs, they'll pull a CD out of another set of CDs and pretty much repurpose that, put a new title on it, a new cover on it, and you've got a whole new set to go out. So that's basically, you know, what the
And
warehouse
and
does. And
the print shop is there too. So you weren't
yes,
directly in the print shop, but they print all the banners and all of the mailers and things like that, like all those mass mailers that go out, correct?
all of the mass mailers and all of that. Actually, when I first started with them, I was over the print shop as well. And yes, all of the letters, high donor letters, all of the letters, everything goes, from the warehouse. All of those are printed and all of that and go from the warehouse. Signed at the warehouse. The books that go out. The only time a book is actually signed by Parsley is if he's having a book signing and he actually signed it in front of you, then you know it was signed by him. I think Shaden told last week about someone sending in a 500, a half million offering, and the letter was signed and sent from the warehouse. Uh, it was not signed by Parsley. It was signed by the signature machine at the warehouse. Um, all of the letters and all the books that he supposedly
You
signs.
is are those signed by Rob Parsley?
No,
Can you see those?
I do. Legacy, absolutely. I see him. No, that's the signature machine at the warehouse. Signed all of
Okay.
those. Um, anything
Wow.
like
And
that.
people would pay more money, correct? Like more or because I'm going to ask you and maybe this is just the perfect time to ask you. I was going to kind of start a little bit somewhere else, but um people will pay more money for a signed copy, but there's also different levels of um people that give money. So there's like there's general givers, there's large givers, and then there's super donors. Are you familiar with those phrases?
Am I familiar with what? You blinked out on me.
The phrases of general givers, large givers, and super donors that basically um, people will send in, money and then you send them a gift. But like the general givers, which I don't know really what the amounts are, right? But like they're free gifts for sending in a donation, maybe $20 or $10, but a super donor may get $1,000 gift or a $10,000 gift. Are you aware of those sorts of things when you've had to send those out?
The
Like
thousand
different
dollar
gift levels,
the
basically.
the $1,000 gifts are the high donors. Anything above that is the same thing as the $1,000 gift. That's all they get. They don't get anything extra.
Okay.
Yes, I am aware of that. Uh, you know, if you give $20, you may get a book. If you
Hmm.
give $100, you might get a book and a CD. If you give $1,000, you get that same book, CD, and some other item that's supposedly from Israel that comes straight from China. So there you have it.
Oh yeah. The Rod Parsley scam of prayer claws and other things that supposedly come from the Holy Land, and it's straight from China, right?
There are no prayer cloths from the Holy Land. They all come straight from China. I personally ordered those, uh, and they come straight from China. It says it on the box. And it takes them a long time to get there because they come a slow boat and less, which they did most of the time, make you wait late to order. And then you had to rush the order, and it cost an arm and a leg to get it there. Uh, and then it would still, you know, be forever getting them out. And they would be calling me and emailing me, why haven't they got their prayer cloths? Well, because we don't have them yet.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
not my
And we're
fault.
gonna,
I could only do
yeah,
what they allowed me to do.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and we're going to get to this when, because I actually have several videos that I've pulled from prayer cloth services because I really want to go kind of a deeper dive into that. But those prayer claws that, he's talking about, you need to get a prayer cloth that's on the altar tonight that we prayed over and this, that, and the other that never happens. I mean, luckily you and the other ladies that were just fired from the warehouse did in fact pray over them, but
Yes, we did.
Rod Parsley himself does not. Correct?
The prayer cloths have never, to my knowledge, since I've been there, ever been on the altar. They have been in the sanctuary up behind the curtains. Um, as far as him laying his hands on them, praying for them, I never saw that. Uh, as far as I know, he was never close to them. They were in the building.
Okay, they've been in the building, but that's about as far as they got to Rod's anointed
They've
left hand.
but on the spot. They've never been on the altar. Uh,
Mm.
the cross and all of that that's around the cross, the bricks, supposedly are a prayer request. It's all fake. It's all
Oh,
for a show. The first year that I was there, it had my manager's, the guy that was above me, it had his name and address on all of them. The next year that
Josh
they did
Smith.
that,
Josh Smith.
yes, and he,
That was the first time. And I don't want to go too far into this, Dolly, right now, only because I want to show those videos. But that
okay,
was the first time you told me go look at these, and they all said Josh Smith.
right, right.
Gosh. Okay. I'm gonna did you want to say anything else about that? Because we're gonna get to that here in a little
No,
bit.
no, I'll keep it for when we get to it.
Okay. So, what, from your perspective, because obviously we heard from your granddaughter last week, and we've heard from a slew of people that have worked there, volunteered there, all of the gone to school there. What was the atmosphere like for the employees behind the scenes when the cameras were off and there it wasn't showtime anymore?
It was rough. People used to come to the warehouse. Of course, the warehouse was separate from the church. So, they would come out there and they would say, "Oh, I want to come out here and work. It's so calm. It's so peaceful out here." So that in itself tells you what it was like at the church for them to walk in the doors of the warehouse and say it's so peaceful out here. Had to be chaotic at the church.
Mhm.
Um, and even in front of the cameras at the last, he used to turn his back to the cameras and yell at people. And then he got to where he would just, look at the cameras and still yell at them, but they cut the feed. So the people that's, you know, at home watching online, they don't know. They think there's a problem with the feed, and it isn't a problem at all. It's him yelling and screaming at people. And I don't personally understand why the people that's sitting there put up with that and
Yeah.
continue to go and continue, to give and think that that's okay, because it isn't okay. There is a right and a wrong way to correct people, a godly way to correct people, and
Mhm.
that isn't it.
Right. Well, half the time, at least from my experience, most of the time, Rod's issue wasn't even, it didn't even really garner that kind of response. He just was like always raging.
Hmm. He has
And
issues.
yeah,
I mean, that's
more than one, right?
that's really all you can say. The man has issues. He needs help,
Yeah.
but he needs to understand he needs help.
Yeah. Absolutely. They all need help. And the people that that defend it, knowing, I just had somebody actually on Shaden's interview. I should have probably pulled the comment and asked you about it, but said something to the effect of, we need more proof. And I'm like, what more proof do you need? I mean, we've had countless audio, countless video, countless guests that have come on and talked about their experiences. If we haven't proven it to you by now, then you're probably not going to get it until maybe you're treated that badly.
I would say that that person needs to get in the Word of God and ask for discernment. If they haven't, from your podcast and other things that have happened, if they haven't seen it, then they have an issue as well. You've
Mhm.
you've put it in black and white. It can't get any plainer than what you've put it, Robin. You've shown it in black and white. Uh, Last week with Shaden, and my kids talking to him, and the audio tape of that, they can hear that that's Rod talking and getting upset at my kids, and my kids staying as calm as can be. How much plainer can it be?
Mhm.
That
Right.
person also needs to get in the Word of God and ask for some discernment, because obviously they have none.
Right. Absolutely. Um, how long did you work there? And I was going to ask you what made you stay. I know you were really there because the kids were there, but how long did you work there, and why did you stay? Because you and Shaden actually stayed for like 6 months or somewhere around there longer than Chris and Yolanda.
Uh, I was let go on April the 25th of this year, uh, just before uh, my time would have been another full year where I would have gotten vacation, where it would have renewed, where I would have gotten more vacation time. We stayed. Shaden stayed because of me. She enjoyed working with me, and I enjoyed her being there. Uh, I stayed to try to help some more of the kids. I felt bad for the kids, and I felt like I was a relief. That's why that's why Chris and Yolanda stayed as long as they did, was to be able to help as many as they could help, and to be able to pray with them and to really show them the love of God,
Yeah.
and for them to see truth and what real relationship with God really is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that that was all that I saw from you guys when I was there. Now, you're definitely more plain spoken about not being a fan of Rodney,
No.
but there, there is very much a lack, and I've talked about this, but very much a lack of love and compassion, and a place for people to be able to talk or vent or ask for advice. And I know that you were very much one of those people. I was one of those people when I was there, and I know Chris and Yolanda were too, and I'm sure Shaden was as well. But it's a shame that in a church you have to discern who is going to run back to executive wing and tell the Parsleys and their henchmen all of your business, and the people that actually care about you and will pray with you and give you advice if you need it.
Right. I never
Yeah.
cared about World Harvest. Like I told you in the beginning, I was here because of my kids. I never liked Rod Parsley, never knew why until I got here. Once I got here, I realized real quick why I didn't like him. God will give me a check in my spirit about things, and I know that when He does that, there's a reason. I may not always know right at the moment why, but eventually I do. So eventually I found out why.
How just to ask, do you know approximately how long it took for you to realize that why you did not like him?
Uh, Probably the first week. The guy that was trained me at the warehouse, uh, he used to tell me that if you're ever in one of these meetings and, they get to cussing and they get to yelling and screaming, and I'm like, I thought at first that, he was really burnt out and that's why he was leaving. And he was, and that was why he was leaving. But I thought, surely to goodness, a pastor doesn't act like that. Surely they don't cuss and scream and holler. And, you know, the Bible gives us a right to be angry, but it tells us not to sin when we do it. And so
Yeah.
that's really unbelievable to me. And I mean, I've I'll be 71 years old in less than 2 months, and I was baptized and filled with the Holy Ghost since I was 19. So I've lived this for a while, and that was just shocking to me. So then I asked Josh, and he said, "Yeah, that's right." Because, it's hard for me to believe that a supposed man of God would act like that and do that. And he told me yes. So then I questioned Chris. And I said, Chris, in those meetings, yes, Mom, that is happening. I said, honey, how do you stand that? And he said, Mom, I'm walking in my calling. I'm doing what God's called me to do. And I've got a family to feed. So,
Yeah. Wow. I know. I think that it was shocking for not only me, but for everyone that has ever been in a meeting or heard the audio from the Tuesday meetings, um, to hear that that's what people have to endure on a weekly
mhm,
basis, sometimes on a daily basis, depending how close to the Parsleys that you are.
mhm. Yes, it it's unbelievable.
It is
Absolutely
unbelievable.
unbelievable. The
Yeah,
first Easter
absolutely.
that I was here, uh, my phone's blowing up at 5 o'clock in the morning, Easter Sunday, and I didn't know who it was, so I don't answer calls if I don't know who it is. Leave me a message, I'll call you back. My sister was here. She said, Dolly, for God's sakes, answer the phone. I said, no, I don't know who it is. So I finally, to satisfy her, I answered it. And it was a Valor student. And they said, Miss Dolly, I need to get in the warehouse and get a T-shirt. Ashton's having a photo shoot this morning. She needs a T-shirt. And I said, honey, do you know what time it is? This is Easter. I am not going to the warehouse now. You can tell Ashton, Dolly said no. Now, looking back, I'm sorry because I'm sure that child got rammed for it. And it was my fault, not hers. Uh, and I hate that. But I told her, I said, when I get up and shower and get dressed and head to get my grandchildren up and ready for church, I'll run by the warehouse and I'll let you know. And I did that, and she was there and got the shirt. You can't tell me Ashton didn't know this on Friday. She's going to do a shoot on Sunday morning, and you want to call somebody at 5 o'clock in the morning? No, that's
Mm-mm.
ridiculous.
Mm-mm. Yeah, that is ridiculous. I mean, but they are ridiculous. The things that they say, the things that they do, the things that they make other people do for them, it's absolutely absurd. So I'm going to actually ask you about a meeting that you were asked to come into because I worked there when this happened. And Megan, who is or was the chief administrative officer, she was a lot of our bosses or a lot of us, she was our contact person, our middleman to the Parsleys, because God forbid we need to talk to directly to a Parsley. But um, they would have these secret meetings because the first time that they did it, I asked why they did not tell me about it and ask me to be involved, but then they continued to do it. So I want you, if you can, describe the meeting where you were confronted for not tithing. What was said to you? What was your response to that situation?
That was Megan and Canfield that called me in. Uh, I knew what it was going to be about because others had told me that they had been called in regards to tithing. And like I said a while ago, I've been in this a long time. I know the Word of God. Uh, I believe in tithing. I believe in giving. Uh, so when I got in there, Megan started that they had been checking the records uh, and saw where, and I said, Megan, you can stop there. I don't tithe here. And she said, well, why not? And I said, this is my home church. Their assumption was because Chris is my son, I'm sure that was my home church. No. So Canfield asked, well, where is? Well, that's really none of your business. But
Mhm.
I changed the subject. I didn't tell him that. I would like to, but I had prayed before I went so I wouldn't be ugly. Uh, and then they asked a couple other questions, Megan did, and she was asking me something about the warehouse. And Canfield went back to it again, and I changed the subject again. Again, it wasn't their business uh, where. Uh, and I had stopped paying tithes there when I first started. They was taking it out of my paycheck, and uh, again, I had a check in my spirit of giving them my money, and didn't really know why at the time, but I said, "Okay, God, uh, if that's what you want." So when I got to work the next day, I had sent in and to payroll and asked them what I needed to do for them to stop taking tithes out of my pay. And they told me, and I did that. And the next day, um, I get a ticket to print for Lady Gaga.
Oh, this one. I was going to
This
ask
one.
you what to explain this, but you go right ahead.
That is a ticket that they were giving to Rob Parsley for his birthday that year to go see Lady Gaga.
In
And
Las
I thought,
Vegas.
in Las Vegas, yes. And I
Yeah.
thought, well,
And this was right, sorry, not to I don't want to interrupt too much, but this was right around the time that you had gotten a check in your spirit about tithing to them, correct?
yes. It was like
Okay.
the same week. Um, I had contacted them to not take ties out, and the next day I got that. I didn't understand why, but again, because of my length of time, when God gives me a check in my spirit, I do it, I pray about it, and if He's giving me that check again, I do what He tells me to do. I've learned to obey God,
Mhm.
not man, but God.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
uh, the same
Mhm.
week, I got that ticket to print for him. Printed it, put it on a big board. It was a big one. I think they were going to actually give that to him uh, in the service, and my son told him he didn't think that was such a good idea to give that to him, that they should give it to him in private and not in front of the congregation. So,
Yeah, because this was, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't this like an extra, like what they were going to have you print was like a really big copy of this ticket, correct? Or am I
oh,
wrong?
oh, oh, yeah, that was a good 4 foot long and probably 3 foot wide. Yes,
Wow.
yeah, it was a big ticket. It wasn't a little thing. It was on the banner printer. Uh, it was
And had
quite
and
large.
had Chris, your son, Chris Degen, was the only one that had the foresight to tell Rod that it probably would not be a good idea for them to present this ticket to him in front of the entire church.
Right, right. I
Wow.
mean, you know, what can you say? I mean, why would a pastor want to go to something like that trashy anyway?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's just filth.
Hmm.
Why do you want to go and put that before your eyes?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. And I mean, it's not just it's not just Lady Gaga, but it's the environment. I put a
Absolutely.
comment up there just a minute ago that, Lady Gaga has been involved in the occult.
Hmm.
That, why would a pastor want to go to Las Vegas to see Lady Gaga? And I'm sure the church paid for all of this.
Oh, you know
And
they did.
yeah. Um, and do we know if he went with anyone else, or if anyone went with him? Do you know that?
Well, he doesn't go anywhere without Ashton.
Yeah.
So, she went. Uh, he leaves his wife at home, takes his daughter everywhere, which is
Yeah.
absurd to me. I mean, I don't understand that at
Right.
all. But, you
Mhm.
know,
Mm, mm,
it's
mm.
actually embarrassing to me for him to
Yeah.
take her all the time. I mean, I understand, taking your family with you, but leaving your wife at home all the time?
Hmm. Yeah.
Really?
And Beth just said, Dolly, tell them how much it costs to make the banner.
Oh, let's go with some fence banners. You know, they'll put a fence banner up for a week or less, and the banner material alone is close to $400. That's just the material. That's not the ink. That's not the time to print it. That's not labor. That's not putting it up. That's the material alone. And it takes a whole roll to put one fence banner up. So you do two fence banners. They never do just one. They put one on each fence. So you're talking $800 plus. You're talking probably by the time you get the ink and the time spent, you're talking a good $1,500 for a week. It's good advertisement if you put it up 3, 4 weeks ahead of time. It's good advertisement, and it's not a lot of money. But when you do it for less than a week, we'll put it up on Monday and they want it down Friday. Uh, there's all of those grids in the church that they'll change out numerous times. And it's very costly to do that. It's time consuming to do that,
Hmm.
you know. Um,
But
and
what the Parsleys want, the Parsleys get, one way or the other.
right. Well, they're not paying for it. When you get reimbursed for everything you spend, Angel, I'm sorry. When you get reimbursed for everything that you spend, uh, and you're drawing a paycheck, the church is paying for everything that you do or have. You're not worried about cost.
Yeah.
You don't care.
Mhm.
They're not wise stewards of God's money at all.
Yeah.
Not
Oh,
at all.
because they're playing with everybody else's money.
Right.
All of these tithes and offerings that are being given, that should be used to upgrade the building, upgrade the dorms, upgrade the college, get more classrooms for harvest prep, and more things that can be used in the classroom and curriculum. None of the money is going to those things, or to have a fund to help people, and give money to people that need it. They don't do any of that. They might do one or two things a year so that they can justify spending all of this money, but it goes into their pockets. That's where people's money go.
they pass out groceries that they get from the government. They take the government sticker off or letter that would be in it and put World Harvest Church on it. They don't even spend the
Is
money
that
for
where that
that.
food comes from?
Yeah.
That's where that
And
food
then
comes from, Dolly?
mhm. and then
Oh my gosh.
then Rod and Ashton will get out there and hand one box of it to somebody going through for photo shoots, and then they're gone. It's the staff that's out there in the weather, which doesn't hurt us, but it's the staff that's out there passing it out in the cold, and then he gets up and brags about how much food they've passed out. He hasn't done anything except one photo shoot, and
Oh
probably
yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
holding an umbrella over him when he did that.
That's right. Well, and I've been witness to that personally because I was out there handing out food at one point in time, and Rod showed up late, of course, got his
Mhm,
picture taken, and
mhm.
then we never saw him again, or Ashton or any of their cronies and personal assistants and personal friends. We didn't see them ever again. We were left to stand out in the cold and rain to which we weren't, I wasn't doing it for the Parsleys anyways. I was doing it to help people, but I had
Right.
no idea that the food was coming from the government. Wow.
Yes,
Wow. Um, I have
absolutely.
so many questions here. What if you can think of it, what were some of the worst things that you personally saw, heard, or experienced while you were working there? Because you were there like 7 years, right?
Like in 4 days, 5 days? Yes, 7 years.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, where do you start? Uh, let's go with VIP weekend. One of the VIP weekends, uh, I leave at 3 o'clock, and then I go back that evening for the students to come. They come to the warehouse and they get a $20 fill up bag. They go through the books and the CDs and all of that. Uh, the print shop is in the warehouse, but now not part of the warehouse. The lights are off in there. Nobody goes in there. Uh, One guy doing it all like every other department, slow, uh, not slow, fast, expect to get it done, no help. Uh, he's in by himself. He hadn't had time to empty the trash cans, take the garbage out. Parsley comes while I'm out. Uh, Valor students were there. When I got back that evening for the students to come, the Valor student that was working with me at the time tells me, Miss Dolly, PRP came out here and he was kicking trash and he was throwing trash at me. I said, what trash? There's no trash in here. All of my cans had been emptied and all of. He said, no, in the print shop. I said, what are you talking about? He said he goes in there looking around and the trash cans were full and it made him mad and he started kicking trash and throwing trash at me, kicking it. I said, kicking trash like a 2-year-old? He was acting like a child, kicking trash cans and doing that? Are you kidding me? No, Miss Dolly, I'm not kidding. That's really what he did. The boy couldn't believe it, that a supposed man of God would act like that. And
Mm.
I guess, if you don't want the trash there, pick it up and take it to the dumpster. You don't pick it or throw it at somebody. I guess that was the most shocking thing that, uh, as far as at the warehouse. Uh,
Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Well, I'm almost to my videos of the prayer cloth services, but I wanted to ask you because a couple of weeks ago I talked about Dominion Camp Meeting because that's the biggest um, event of World Harvest on a yearly basis. Each, I tried to paint as good of a picture as I could paint, but I know you were in one of those departments that they're working, 18-hour days was not just during Dominion Camp Meeting. It was weeks before because you're printing all of the banners and anything that they could possibly need for Dominion Camp Meeting. So can you talk about what it was like working Dominion Camp Meeting and what the expectations were like on you and the other people in the warehouse?
It was absolutely terrible. It's, we would be there five, I would be there 5:30 in the morning and work till 1 or 2 in the morning because we had to take all of the products from the warehouse to the church. Once it got there, then you had to set it up. You had to set the tables up. There's several grids in the church. Uh, all of those were changed out. The parking lot signs, and all of this has to be printed, put on the boards. The parking lot signs have to be printed, put together. You know, people are under the assumption that we just get all this stuff in and send it out, or that's not the way it works. It's actually printed at the warehouse. It's cut at the warehouse. It's put together at the warehouse. And then the warehouse is responsible for taking it to the church. The pole banners outside, all of those are changed out for DCM and for Easter and for the different things, for the different functions that they do. Uh, and it's hours on end. It's very tiring. There's no way that you can work DCM and then go sit in the service.
No.
When I was there, I never sat in the services of DCM until the end, and I didn't have to set the tables up. Uh, I had to get all the stuff over there that they wanted, but I didn't have to set them up, thank God. And someone else did that and was over that. They used the Valor students to do that. And, they, God love them, the Valor students are worked like redheaded stepchildren. And, they're abused. They get now $12.50 an hour. They keep 80% of it for their tuition. So these kids are taking home $2.50 an hour minus taxes, and they don't have enough to buy deodorant and food and the things that they need to even be there. If they have car insurance or whatever, I don't know how the poor kids make it. To me, that's abuse, big time.
Mhm. Absolutely. Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is abuse. Everything they do is abusive. And then they joke about it behind, closed doors, about how they treat people and making fun of people. And I can't believe I made it almost 4 years. I can't believe you made it 7 years.
Well, I
The
wasn't
good
at the
Lord.
church. So
Yeah.
because I wasn't at the church, I was at the warehouse, and they left the warehouse alone. I mean, they would talk to us through emails and we need this, we need that, we need the other. And I could multitask. Was the only way that I was able to get things done that I got done, was because I was able to multitask. If they don't get somebody in there that can multitask now, the stuff is not going to get done. And it's going to cost the church more because they're going to have to outsource a lot of these signs. They're going to have to, they've got, when they let us four ladies go, uh, they've got one guy, and it's impossible for one person to do it all. And he doesn't have time. I'm sure they're planning on using Valor students. He doesn't have time to teach these students how to do this stuff. There's not enough time, between now and DCM for him to be able to get all of that done. So it's going to cost the church a lot more than my pay would have been to have kept us. Of course, they want rid of me because I'm a Degan.
Well, yeah, they wanted rid of you and Shaden, and
Yes,
probably got rid of the other two ladies just so that they could get rid of you two.
right.
Yeah.
And I
Well, my
apologize to the
understanding,
ladies.
huh?
I apologized to the other two ladies. I told them I was
Well,
sorry that I
it's not
cost
your
them their
fault.
jobs.
It's those lunatics that are making the decisions. I mean, they're the one. You do feel some responsibility, but it's not your fault. It's their fault because they do not love God or love people. So
No,
there's that.
no, there's no love of God at all in those people, unfortunately. Uh, and I hate that saying anymore. Love God, love people. I cringe when I hear that
Mhm. I
because of
know.
them.
Yeah. Um, Well, I don't know how accurate this is, but my understanding was that they were expecting, 70 or 80 kids for summer internship to use and abuse all summer. And only a handful showed up. So I don't know what they're going to do about Dominion Camp Meeting because they've let go a lot of people. And I'm sure that their mentality was that they would bring these summer interns in, painting this picture that this is a great opportunity and it's their introduction to ministry. And they were just going to work them like borrowed mules.
Well, it's like VIP weekend. They set up. They bring in food trucks. They bring in special singers. They bring in special preachers for the weekend, and they put on this big show. And then these poor kids get in there thinking that they're going to have all of this and get all of this, and they get in there, and they have nothing. If HPS isn't in, they don't get fed.
That's right.
Uh, and when HPS is in, they get the leftovers of what HPS. They don't get to eat lunch till 1:30, and then at 4:30 is supper. You know, who wants to eat again in 3 hours or
Mhm.
four? You know, and it's leftovers from what they did for HPS, not fit to eat to begin with. They make the kids pay $1,200 a semester for the food. They have to pay that. If they don't pay that, they have to get a doctor's excuse for them not to have to pay that $1,200 a semester, and they have to get a new doctor's excuse each semester. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
crazy.
Yeah. There was a young lady that worked in my office towards I think it was like the last couple years that I was there, and she didn't eat in the cafeteria, and she wanted healthier options, and
Right.
they would make her get a doctor's excuse every
Hmm.
semester. And I'm like,
Hmm.
why do you have to keep showing it? Isn't just one time enough? Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm getting ready to, like I said at the beginning, I've got 3 prayer cloth services, and they all show this large display of prayer requests. And, but Rod also says some crazy things. So, I'm going to play them. We may talk a little bit in between, but the first one is from 2019. The second one is, or wait, the first one is from 2018. My apologies. The second one is 2019, which Joanie is actually speaking in. And then the third one is 2020. And I believe that's the one where I'm definitely going to refute something that Rod says because, you know, he just says the craziest, most outlandish things and people just believe it. And
Is
I'm
his
like,
mouth moving? If
he's
his
lying,
mouth is
girl.
moving, he's lying.
That's fact. That is an
And
absolute fact.
if people would listen to what he's really saying, even the scriptures, he's twisting and turning, and it's not truth.
Yeah, absolutely. It has has if it has any truth to it whatsoever, it's a very, very small sliver. It's not, and it's usually twisted anyways.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to show this one, Dolly. So this would have been 2018. So probably your first prayer cloth. And you helped set up these stacks of prayer requests. So I'm going to
Yes.
play this one first.
Sometimes God says, send in a prayer cloth and believe me.
Yeah.
He will always say something. Because when you ask for a miracle, God never gives you the miracle. He gives you an instruction. The obedience to the instruction produces the miracle. You didn't hear me. You didn't hear me. Oh, God, give me a miracle. God said, do something. The blessings of God are conditional. What does that mean? God says, I'll do this when you do that. It's that simple. So, they said, if you'll bring her to Indianapolis, Indiana, in a hotel.
And there he goes into talking about his lie that he's been perpetrating for decades about his sister being healed of all of her ailments and addictions. But that large setup of prayer requests for prayer cloth, it's all fake, correct? It's all a facade. You helped set up
Those
pallets
are
and pallets of
those
fake prayer requests, correct?
those are called prayer bricks that are envelopes with phony names on them, or like Josh, my boss, his name and address on them, uh, which is a shame because they do get prayer requests. So
Right.
just be real. Really put the prayer requests out there. It doesn't have to, put them on a table, put them in totes, put them, you know, and really pray over the prayer request. It's sad that everything has to be such a show
Mm-hmm.
and so phony, because God is real, heaven's real, hell's real, and we're going to spend someplace eternity.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, I'm bringing in 2019. This would have been my first year there. Now, again, I always preface that I did not go to church there. I only worked there. So, I heard about these services, but I was never in them. I did work Dominion camp meeting, but again, we never had enough time to go into the service because we're
Right.
working like dogs.
Right.
All right, here's 2019. Now this one's Joanie talking, and but the large display is also shown.
I wish you could have an opportunity to read some of these. There is tragedy and hurt and pain and things you can't even imagine on those cards. And I've read stacks before that gave me a lot of perspective. I thought, oh, I had it rough until I read a few of those and thought, yes, but prayer is our mighty, mighty communication to God. Yes. And we're thankful for the opportunity to have so many of us being one voice. Yes. One voice. Hallelujah. Speaking one truth. Yes. To one God. Yes. That we serve, and we're waiting for an amazing and abounding miracles and signs and wonders that are going to be taking place.
Any thoughts on that? I mean, that display was slightly different than the year before, but again, you and the Valor kids were the ones doing the setup, correct?
Yes, no prayer requests there. Again, it was the prayer bricks that are stored at the warehouse that are brought out. A new envelope put on the top ones, and they did change it that year. They gave 10 different phony names and addresses, so they weren't all the same. And it's really a shame because a lot of the people in the church don't realize those are phony, and they go down there and lay on that, crying over them and praying over them. And it's sad that, the real things and the real prayer requests that they do get are not there to be prayed over.
Right.
It's sad.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Well, and I'm gonna address something because I see it kind of coming through the comments, and I was gonna put it up on the screen, but I'm gonna answer this. So, someone said her Joanie's speech is slurred. Has she had a stroke? No, but unfortunately, if you go on and Google her name, that's one of the top searches is Joanie Parsley stroke. She did not have a stroke. She has been a longtime user and addict of opiates and painkillers, and she stays she stays high. Every time I have ever met her, she was high. I knew she was high because in my late teens and early 20s I also had drug addictions, plural. It wasn't just opiates, it was several things, so I knew what that addiction looked like. And I was naive to think that the leadership did not even know. And so I went to them, tiptoeing, but felt like a responsibility to tell them that she was high. And they just looked at me, kind of like a deer in headlights. But that she has not had a stroke. She's unfortunately addicted to painkillers, and maybe we all would be if we had to live and be married to Rod Parsley, because I can assure you she is treated the same, if not worse, than how we have heard other people being treated within the ministry.
But it's my opinion that she's just as bad as he is. I've
Correct.
seen
I
her
agree.
yelling
Yeah.
at Frontline just like he does. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
she's just as bad and just as guilty as he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't disagree with that. And you start falling in love with status and money and control and power, you're going to start demonstrating a lot of these characteristics that you may not necessarily like in other people, but you have them as well. Talking about Joanie specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, here's the last one, dolls, and then I'm gonna I got something to say about this one afterwards.
That if Jesus was asked the question, will you heal me, 40 times in 4 books, If it sometimes was not his will, we would have had an example of it.
That's right, sir.
But there is no example of it because he never said no. He's no respecter of persons, the same yesterday, today, and forever. And if he ever healed anybody, he'll heal you, spirit, soul, body, and in all that pertains to life and godliness tonight. I hope you're sharing right now. I want you to have a prayer cloth placed on this altar for you. You said, why? Well, I don't know. I suppose it's because the anointing is tangible.
Yes.
And because it's tangible, it's transferable.
Yes.
That means if somebody has it, they can give it to you. It was in Moses' rod.
So Dolly, I'm sure you were listening to that, and he's trying to sell these prayer claws like hotcakes over there, and get people to get his book. Well, Rod, at least 12 times in Scripture, the Lord has said no to people. Okay. And I'm going to show that really quickly. I'm not trying to butt in on your time, Dolly, but I think it's important, because the stuff that he says is so outlandish. So, first I'm going to show a slide. I don't need to go through each one of these, but these are the no's in the Old Testament. These are examples of no's. Adam and Eve in Genesis, they were told not to eat from the tree. They disobeyed, and God said no to them remaining in Eden. Cain in Genesis as well. Moses in Deuteronomy, Moses asked to enter the promised land, and God said, that is enough. Do not speak to me anymore about this matter, telling him no. David's fast for his children in 2 Samuel 12:16-23. David prayed and fasted, and his child still died. I'm going to add the no's from the New Testament. Jesus in Gethsemane, Matthew 26:39. Jesus said, let this cup pass from me. The cup, meaning crucifixion, was not removed. The rich young ruler in Matthew 19:16-22. He wanted eternal life, but wouldn't part with his wealth. God said no to his self-righteous path. James and John asking for seats of honor, in Mark 10:35-40, requested to sit at the right and left in glory, and God said no, it wasn't for him to grant. And then there's two other ones, and these were not all of the ones that I pulled, but there were at least 12 examples of God saying no. And God's no is never arbitrary. It's often carries purpose, mercy, and a higher yes behind it, whether it's character development, redirecting you onto something better, or just aligning you with God's will. So him saying that God does not tell you no is an absolute lie, and there is plenty of things to refute it in the Bible. And I just had to do that, Dolly. I'm so sorry for
You're
cutting in on your time.
you're just fine. You're right.
Yeah.
God does tell you no.
Listen, he's told me no, and I would be so mad. And then after, I was like, Lord, thank you for telling me no, or thank you for
Right.
that unanswered prayer, because what ended up happening, or and was shown to me, was so much better than
Right.
what I was asking and praying for it anyways.
Right. He
Um,
always answers, but it's not always yes.
absolutely.
Sometimes
That's right.
sometimes he tells you no for your benefit. Looking back, there's a lot of times that he made me wait. And it turned out a lot better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now I'm on to another question. I have so much, and I don't know when I'm gonna, well, I'll show these at the end. I have pictures of you with the family. Was there any specific moment in working at World Harvest Church that you knew something was deeply wrong, but you felt like powerless to speak up about it?
Yes. You know, when it came to seeing my kids, um, for whatever reason, Yolanda has a beautiful voice, but for whatever reason, they would not let her lead. They did not like her voice. You know, I had to sit and because they're adults, uh, watch my children time after time be yelled at. Not their fault. You know, they can't help it if there's a spot on the floor. Uh, you know, but I've seen Chris get yelled at because there was something on the platform that Parsley didn't think should have been there. Uh, but there's nothing I could say or do other than pray
Yeah.
for God to give Chris the grace and the ability to do what he was called there to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So now I'm going to show, and thank you for that. I mean, I remember the situation with Yolanda, when I worked there, and I was shocked that she was not the second lead, because not only the chemistry between her and Chris, obviously
Yes.
their husband and wife, but her voice is just as beautiful as Chris's. And they sound so good together. And I couldn't ever understand why they would never allow her in that position. And it seems like you were just as shocked as I was.
Jealousy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I
You
think that
know,
she outshined Ashton, and
well,
probably
that's
Rob
not hard
Parsley
to
too.
do. That isn't hard to do. I mean,
Right.
that just isn't hard to do at all when you come to church with your pajamas on. Somebody comes dressed. I mean, you know, that's not hard to outshine them. It's a shame that, you know, she wasn't taught better. And with the money that is spent on her, you know, that the fact that, you know, the Spirit of God would move. And because they weren't there on stage in the limelight, they couldn't handle it. Uh, you know, so
Yeah, absolutely. So the next question I have, I'm going to show, I got the pictures, Dolly. Um, so I'm going to show this picture. So this is what used to be Ellen Parsley and Clyde Parsley's home on the Parsley Manor. Okay. So Rod and Joanie and their family have, a mansion, and then they have this other house that's, 2,500 or 3,000 square feet, whatever. Can you explain and talk about the Valor Boys that live at Parsley Manor, and the Parsleys are allegedly getting the money that should be going to the dorms? And then also talk about them having to also earn their keep on top of that.
yes, I've had some of the boys that worked at the warehouse, some that didn't, have told me that, you know, they live out there. Nobody's supposed to know that. Oops. Uh,
Well, The cat's out of the bag.
Cat's out of the bag now. They live out there. I know one morning, it was about 10 o'clock in the morning. The young man came up to me and he said, Miss Dolly, I got to leave. I said, what do you mean you've got to leave? I'm printing banners. I need you to get them. I need them on the boards. I've got to get this done. He said, well, when they call, I have to go. I said, when who calls? He said, they've told me I've got to come out to the house and they want us to pick up sticks and off of the lot. And I said, well, how long are you going to be gone? He said, till it's done. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do about the work that I need to get done here? He said, Miss Dolly, I don't know. I'm sorry, but I've got to go. I said, well, okay. I'll see you when you get back. Well, I didn't see him until the next morning because the next morning he tells me that it was like 10 o'clock that night before they got through. And they're off of the clock. They're paying whatever they would pay at the dorms is what their Parsley's getting for that. And then if they're called like that, uh, they're not paid for that time that they're there. They open the pool, they close the pool, they put the Christmas tree up, they put the decorations up. If they receive boxes, they have to take the boxes into the house for them. They do all of that without pay. And these kids aren't making that much money to begin with. And when you take a day out of their pay, I'm sure it really has to be rough on them.
Oh, absolutely. And apparently I've got my square footage wrong. Apparently Ellen's and Clyde's house was around 7 or 8,000 square feet. And Rod's is around the same size. So I don't know if anyone is listening right now. If I saw Vanessa Johnson was in the comments. Oh, there goes my dogs. That there is money that should be going to the dorms at the college for these college boys, okay, that are
Yes.
living out at Parsley Manor. So Rod is allegedly getting that money to pay for rent, but then he
Mm-hmm.
is also making these boys earn their keeps. So I this has to be illegal to take money that is being paid for dorms at a college and being given to this millionaire pastor so that the boys can live out there and be free labor and be at their beck and call.
Yes.
So
Has to be.
if anybody can weigh on in, hi Vanessa, if you can weigh in on that, that would be super helpful. So this is kind of along the same lines, Dolly, but can you talk about if you ever had staff members that worked with you or worked for you out at the warehouse that would get called and then have to leave immediately to go do work for the Parsleys?
Oh, yes. I had uh, a young man that worked in the print shop. And when I first started there, the print shop and the warehouse was all together. He worked in the print shop doing printing. And the print shop's always busy. There's always something going on. Needs to be there to get it done. Uh, he was called to go walk the dog. Parsley can't even walk his own dog. I mean, my goodness. Put a leash on him and take him out. But the young man had to go and walk the dog.
Wow. So he had to quit. And I remember this young man that worked there. But I didn't realize that he was also doing Parsley favors on the side, or, I knew people would have to leave to go pick up Austin from work and go walk dogs or go out and clean up after the dogs because no one wanted to clean up their waste.
Mm-hmm.
So this young man, I was not aware that he had to do that. And then now apparently other people have to leave to pick up sticks as well. So
Right. Right.
well, and Vanessa commented, yes, the college is accredited for the associates and for the bachelor's program. So maybe we need to get a hold of the um, Ohio Department of Higher Education or something like that to see if they can at least look into these claims. Sorry, Dolly, did you want to say something else?
It's one thing, for them to stay out there, but it's another thing for them to call them and them not get paid.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's kind of like
Um,
the kids that are on call, have to stay within a certain radius and maybe on call for 5 hours, and they only get paid if they're called. That's wrong.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's absolutely wrong. And how many people that that are treated that way, especially the Valor students, you can't go into overtime, you can't do this, but you have to be available, all these different times. So,
Right.
it's just wild. What was your last day of work like? And if you can take us through that day and then talk about if they ask you to sign a non-disclosure agreement.
My last day of work was on Friday, the 25th. Worked all day. When I'm supposed to be leaving, I get an email. Could I come for a meeting? So I said, sure. After I worked all day and after I had been there and prepared everything for Easter weekend, uh, you know, then they call me in. They, Megan is smiling the whole time. She's telling me that they no longer need my services and that they will give me 2 weeks' pay if I sign this. And I said, well, I'm not signing anything until I read it. Oh, no, we wouldn't expect you to. And I wasn't going to sign it anyway. I mean, you're going to give me 2 weeks' pay that's nothing for me to not speak out and try to, help others from being tormented and going through torture, seeing people hurt, young folks hurt, coming here thinking that they're going to get, you know, closer to God, and all they're going to do is get used. Uh, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And didn't they come back to you and then did they offer you any additional money to sign?
yes, they told me they would
Okay.
give me 6 weeks because I told them that I emailed them back and told them that they should be ashamed of themselves after me giving 7 years. And, when I worked at the warehouse, I treated it like I would want somebody to treat it if it had been Chris's.
Right.
I would never send anything out that wasn't in good condition. When you take the books in and out of the warehouse to the church all the time, and some of them get damaged, and when they come back in and you have to go through them and recount and all that, we would pull the ones that was bad. I would have never sent anything out that wasn't in good condition. And for them to offer me 2 weeks was an insult to me. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I told them, that it was an insult and that I was not doing that. So they came back that they would give me 6 weeks. And I told them they could
Yeah.
keep that too.
Well,
I was
and
not
I mean,
signing.
I knew that they probably would not even offer you close to what they would need to even have you consider signing it.
No, they did
Wow.
not. And I did not sign and
Well,
wouldn't.
I'm glad that you didn't.
I
Um,
think it's an insult anyway for a church to have to ask you to sign an NDA, regardless. If you're not doing something wrong and you're not doing something wrong, why are you having people sign an NDA?
mhm. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah,
It's
it's
that
not
simple.
just intellectual property that they're trying to protect. I mean, they're trying to protect all of their secrets, all of their abuse, all of the things that you've seen here and there, been witness to, been involved in, the meetings that you've been involved in, all of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, this is a sort of a different topic, but I'm trying to go sort of in order. How many times in your 7 years there were you actually hurt on the job?
Uh, Twice on the job, 3 times since I've been there. Uh, Fell in the foyer and broke my wrist. 1 year putting up the cross for prayer cloth, uh, somebody pushed the pallet jack right up behind me, and I did not realize it and turned around to take off and fell over it and broke ribs. And then uh, October last year, uh, because I had been begging for help that they never would, begging before you left to get help that they never would get me. Uh, but I'm the type person that I'm going to get the job done one way or the other. I'm going to do it. So I had gone to Miss Jones, said she needed some Bibles, and uh, I had gone to get the Bibles that she needed, and had a box of Bibles in my hand, and my foot got caught in the shrink wrap on the pallet as I was stepping back, and the box threw me. I fell and broke my hip. During that time, you would have thought that they would have been glad to have paid me for my time off. Nope, had to use my vacation time for that because workers' comp only pays a percentage of your pay.
Yeah.
So, then they conveniently let me go before my vacation time renewed. So they didn't have to pay me again, you know. Uh, and here, Ashton takes trips. She was out a whole summer because she supposedly was having issues. They didn't cut her pay, and she isn't
That's a
there.
fact.
She isn't there, when she's supposed to be anyway. She's supposed to be the student pastor, but she's never there. I mean, I was in a meeting one time with you there, and she was there, and she said all the department heads are required to be in chapel when chapel's going on, and if I'm not there, it's none of your business. Don't ask. And that wasn't necessary to say to begin with. But if you're not going to be there, okay, say, I may not be there, and if I'm not, something has come up. If you want to make an excuse, I mean, you lie all the time anyway, so you might as well lie about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my good friend Vanessa Johnson, who is an attorney, she said that workers' comp is her expertise, and it sounds like maybe a retaliatory termination. So maybe we can get you all hooked up for a conversation. But you are also looking for a job, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like to work. I don't like to sit at home. That's not my cup of tea. I will be
Yeah.
working again. Yes, absolutely.
I know
And
you
very
will.
soon. Very
And
soon.
I'm happy to be a reference for you, Miss Dolly.
Thank you, dear.
um when you I'm trying, some of these questions are, things that we've already talked about. When you heard the audio that we played last week and the interview I did with your granddaughter, where Chris and Yolanda were meeting with Rod discussing taking the kids out of Harvest Preparatory School to put them at another school that was a better fit for them. What did you think about that when you first heard it?
It was hard to listen to. Um, you love my kids. Uh, Next to God, they're the most important thing to me. My kids and my grandkids are it. You can say anything to me that you want to say, and I'll stand and laugh at you for the most part. But you start on my kids or my grandkids, and that's a totally different story, you know. And there was no reason. Where do you ever go to work and your employer tell you where your children can go to school or what to do with your children? Chris and Yolanda are responsible for the upbringing of those kids. Next to them, it's the grandparents. It's not whoever we are employed by. It's our responsibility to raise our children.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
you look at my grandkids and my kids, and you look at Rodney's, and you see who did the best job. Hands down, we did.
That's right. That is right. You have a great family, and you guys were truly some of the people that helped me make it through when I was there. Just being able to be surrounded by people, because at some time, at points in times, even when you know that what you're feeling is right, you still kind of feel crazy sometimes, because you're like, how is this stuff going on, and how has it been going on for this long, and all of these people and sycophants that follow them around, and just tell them what they want to hear. How has it been going on this long? And you guys really, I mean, praying with me and just having conversations, because you do start feeling like, am I losing it here? Am I supposed to be here? Waiting for God to release you so that you can leave, that sort of thing.
Well, you have to wait for that also. But then when you really love God, you know, you hate to leave all of these people that and these kids that are hurting and gonna be hurt. If there's something that you can do to help them, if you can speak a word to them, to help them overcome something. There's been kids to come to the warehouse, and I would try to encourage them and uplift them, because I know what they go through when they're at the church and working in other departments. I know how hard it is on them. It
Well, and they need someone that is not just wise, but also spiritually wise and spiritually mature and biblically literate, to
right.
help give a little insight, and isn't one of these people that are just do whatever they say, and so we don't get yelled at kind of mentality, because that, I mean, that's very much, everybody walks around in fear, and like an abused spouse,
Hmm.
that they're always walking on eggshells and not trying to make a Parsley mad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and that's sad. You know, they say Canfield is his pastor. Well, he hadn't done a very good job in correcting him. And, you know, that's sad because Canfield doesn't correct the statement, so he's going to have to answer to God for that. You know, all this stuff that they're covering and hiding up for them, Jay and Megan and all of these people that have been there. If they stay, you know, and they don't start repenting for this stuff and asking God's forgiveness, they're going to answer on Judgment Day. They've got to answer for this now or then. You know, it's up to them. But and the first time that they have some backbone and say no to them, they're going to be out the door.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
Parsley's got by with it so long, you know, and Ashton also, that, you know, as soon as they have a backbone, they're out. You know,
That's right.
Ashton take trips with frontline singers, and they get back, and Chris will be told they can't sing anymore because they drink and partied too much while we were out. And then Chris and go on vacation, and Chris is watching online, and here they've got them up singing then to make Chris look bad. And, you know, even have them singing specials, a verse of the song, just to make Chris look bad when the director comes from them.
Yeah,
Ashton
that's
wasn't
right.
sit down because she partied too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Or party too much. Yeah. And they were doing the behavior with Ashton. I mean,
Right,
that's
exactly,
the whole thing that that's how they know that they were partying, because they do it with Ashton.
exactly. Exactly. They're doing it together and then they get back. And, you know, to make my family look bad, they put them up after and make it look like that it was Chris's fault when it
Yeah.
wasn't Chris at all.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Yeah, master manipulators and deflecting the real truth to try to put it off on other people. And God bless, you know, Chris and Yolanda, that they didn't lose it, because most people, I think, would have put their foot down and said, you know, enough is enough of this nonsense. But they maybe they did do that behind the scenes, but they were not going to just leave without feeling like they had been released from that position.
Right. You know,
Yeah.
we're never going to leave anywhere till God says go.
Hmm.
You know, new season, thank God for it. We're all fine.
Absolutely.
People have asked
Absolutely.
others, how are the Degans? The Degans are great. You know,
The Degans are doing good, aren't they?
absolutely. You know, on Tuesdays and Fridays was their normal meetings, and Chris would text Londa and I every Tuesday and Friday, and any other time if there was a meeting called, he would text us to pray. You know, thank God he did, like the meeting when Parsley pulled the gun out and shot. If Londa and I hadn't been praying, God only knows what could have happened.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? He could have killed somebody. You know, I thank God that he does hear and answer prayer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, how did that, I mean, just because we're talking about that, from your perspective, how did these things make you feel when you guys are there, or maybe even how they make you feel now, knowing everything that not only you had to endure and the students, but actually your own son and daughter-in-law and your grandchildren, what they had to endure.
I've been in it a long time. So, I know the Word of God. I have a personal relationship with God for myself. So it didn't bother me as bad as seeing my family, abused and misused. Made me feel bad. Chris and Yolanda are adults. All I can do is pray and ask God to cover them and to keep their heart covered and pure. And he has and did. And, I thank him for it. And, that's all any of us can do, and speak out, you know, like we're doing now. Speak the truth, tell the truth, so others don't go through it, and so they're stopped from hurting others. You know, stop funding this. Your money
Mhm.
isn't going where it needs to go, it's going in Rodney's pocket. Uh, you know, I told you earlier, the church pays for everything for him. I got invoices where they were reimbursing him for dog food and his medication and uh,
Oh yeah,
prescriptions,
because they
dry
would
cleaning, and
accidentally print, right? They would accidentally print stuff at the warehouse.
yes. So I'm seeing all these invoices where he's reimbursed for all this stuff. And I'm thinking at the time, why is he reimbursed for this when he gets a paycheck? You know, and he gets up bragging all the time about he doesn't owe anything. Well, no wonder. The church pays for everything. Why do you owe anything? Why would you owe anything when the church has paid for everything?
Yeah.
You know, you're drawing a big
Good.
salary and you're taking all of this money from the church to reimburse you for your dog food. Are you kidding me? You know, buy your own dog food.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure he's participating in the housing allowance that ministers receive. So, half of his paycheck likely is untaxed, and then he's still using the church to pay for the other stuff that should be coming out of that money.
Right.
Goodness gracious. Okay, dolls, I only got a couple more questions.
We got to hurry because I'm about to die over here.
You need a drink of water?
No, my phone's about to die, even though I've got it
Oh,
plugged up.
okay. Well, let me get there because there are a couple of things that I do want to make sure that we hit on. Um, you had mentioned to me, and I know this happened when I worked there. Can you tell us about when Yolanda was required to cook for the Parsleys before she cooked for her own family on holidays?
Oh, there was several times, that she would have to start earlier to cook for them. And, you know, when Yolanda doesn't mind cooking for us. She enjoys that. She enjoys cooking. But when you start yelling at her husband and screaming and, at things that's not even his fault or he has anything to do with, then it becomes a problem. Uh, and I used to laugh and tell her, after a bit, I'd say, let me help you with that. And he won't get out of the bathroom for a week. He won't be yelling at anybody.
Wow.
And of course, we never did do anything like that. But yeah, Yolanda enjoys cooking and she enjoys cooking for others. A lot of times they would cook for the Valor students because they knew that, you know, the kids that sang and all, they knew that they didn't have a lot and didn't get a lot, and Yolanda would cook and prepare and have them over. She enjoyed it, but not when you're yelling and screaming and hollering for no. I mean, it's okay to correct, but there's a right and a wrong way to do it.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, but requiring staff members to cook for you before they cook for their own family. I mean, hello. Let's come back down to reality here.
I always
Especially,
wondered, I always wondered why his wife wasn't doing it anyway.
well, yeah. That's a good question. Why is Joanie not cooking? But she doesn't apparently very often because they're getting takeout all the time with the Valor kids having to run and go pick it up.
Hmm.
And so I don't know that she cooks at all anymore anyways. So
Right.
um okay. I don't want to lose you here, so I'm going to ask you this. What is your opinion about Rod and Ashton Parsley, and what would you say to them if you had the chance to sit down with them?
I think they're both a friggin' joke. Uh, I would tell Rod that he should be ashamed of himself that he hasn't corrected his daughter, to get some self respect. And, you know, you say you're not a pastor, that you're for the world, so take pastor off of everything. It's a lie, according to you. And go to the world and preach if that's what you think you are. And Ashton doesn't want to be there. So you're not a little girl anymore. You're old enough to make your own decisions and to make your own life. So get out and do it. Go.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, well, Dolly, I appreciate that. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about?
Yeah, one other thing. There was another time that there was a prayer cloth tech rehearsal. Uh, After that rehearsal, there was a couple that was on, there was three people that was on the front line that Rodney chewed them out. Then Ashton chewed them out. Then they called them individually and chewed each one of them out. And because they go by your house and see what you're doing and all that, as Shaden said last week, you know, they check on you. Chris called me and he said, Mom, can we come to your house? He says, I want to talk to them. And he said, I want to encourage them and help them. They've been through a lot. I said, sure, honey, come on. And they were here. I think they left my house like at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And that is, you know, why my kids stayed as long as they stayed. That's why I stayed as long as I stayed, trying to help these people. And, you know, we love people. We love the Lord, and hopefully our lives show the love of God
Yeah.
through the things that we do and the way that we live.
Hmm.
You know, we start all this at home. We pray at home. We it's not a show to us. It's life.
It's real. Yeah, it's a
It
real
is real.
relationship, and you can tell, that it's real. So this will be my last question, Dolly. Um, Other than sincerely appreciating you coming on and shedding some additional light on everything, um, what do you think a real honest God-centered ministry is supposed to look like?
It's supposed to look like God. You know, it's you're supposed to love people. You're supposed to help people. You're supposed to help the homeless, feed the homeless, help shelter them. You know, you're supposed to disciple others and help them become all that God wants them to be. You know, live the life in front of them so they can see what it's supposed to look like in true discipleship. Uh,
Yeah.
Nobody at World Harvest is ever discipled.
Right.
They talk about how many people they've gone out and saved to begin with. You don't save anybody, God saves. And unless he draws, it isn't happening. So live the life, be honest, help people.
That's right. That's right. And I lied. I got one more question. I'm taking after Rod over here.
Okay, quit it.
I know, right? I'm just going to quit it right now. What message would you want other people to understand about World Harvest Church and Valor Christian College and Harvest Preparatory School, as before they might go there and leave everything they've ever known to go there or send their kids there?
You better really pray about it and really know that it's God, because if you don't, you're wasting your time. You're going to go there thinking and moving your family across country that several people did for local church, and you're going to be real disappointed. So
And
you better,
stuck, really. I mean, you're stuck.
right, you better pray and really find the mind of God and know that it's God before you do it. You're not going to get a Christian education at HPS. You're going to learn about drugs. You're going to learn about sex. You're going to learn filthy language in the halls. I was appalled when I first got there, putting up grids and all, and it's like effing this and effing that. I'm like, oh, wow. And nobody ever says anything to them, and you don't dare say anything to them. Ungodly. Worse than any public school I ever walked the hallway of. HPS is terrible. Valor, if you're online, you can probably get a good education. Living in the dorm, I'm not so sure about. You're not, you're going to get worked like a dog, yelled, screamed, and hollered at, and not worth it. I would tell people, stop sending your money to World Harvest because it's all going in Rod's pocket.
Yeah, that's right. Turn around and go the other way, I say,
Run,
run.
run.
Yeah. Run, Forrest, run, as my friend Marianne Ray would say.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, Dolly, is there anything else? We're coming up on almost 2 hours, if you can believe it.
Oh, wow. No, thank you for doing this and for allowing a platform for people to be able to come, and hopefully by myself, Shaden, and the others that have been on, hopefully people can heal. People can move forward in God and know that not ministry should not be like World Harvest Church at all. That's not what ministry is. That's not the way people should be treated. Absolutely not. And we pray that, by us coming on and you having the platform for us to be able to, that we help others to, live for God, and know that there's people out there that do love them, that do care about them, and that are praying for them. And not everybody is like World Harvest Church.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Worst of the worst. Not the people, but the people that call the shots are the worst that I have ever
Yes.
seen in anywhere, not just in a Christian workplace, if you will, which it was not. But it was most certainly the most toxic environment that I've ever been in. So, well, Dolly, I will say thank you again for being on the podcast. Thank you to Everett at Ohio for Freedom and Pastor Ray at The Unction and Marianne Ray at Truth Be Told and all of the other podcasters. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. And please continue to like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you next week for a new episode of Megamaniacs. Have a great night, everyone.